Good morning and thank you for joining us today. I'm Suvarna Jadhav working with Cloud.in as a strategic partnership and alliance manager. Welcome to the session Mastering Multi-Account Governance with AWS Control Tower hosted by Cloud.in. Are you tired of the chaos of managing multiple AWS accounts? Then this session is perfect for you. By the end of the session, you will discover how AWS Control Tower can streamline your cloud operations and enhance security across your entire AWS landscape. For today's session, we have Rutuja and Sanket as a speaker. Both are working with Cloud.in as a cloud consultant. As a part of cloud consultant team, both have expertise in delivering solutions by employing AWS best practices, leveraging the wide range of available AWS services. Welcome Rutuja, welcome Sanket. Before starting the session, I would like to mention a few points. All attendees are muted by default and cannot be unmuted during the session. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. If in case you have questions in between the session, please raise an electronic hand to grab speaker's attention, or you can ask a question through the question section. I will request Rutuja to start a session. Over to you, Rutuja.
Thank you, Suvarna ma'am. Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to our webinar that is Mastering Multi-Account Governance with AWS Control Tower. So today me and Sanket will be guiding you through how AWS Control Tower can help organizations establish a robust governance strategies for their multi-account environments. So let's get started. Uh, First, we will look at the agenda for today. So our webinar will be covering following key points that are mentioned. The introduction will be setting the stage for why multi-account governance is essential. Next, we'll look why AWS Control Tower should be chosen for this specific workload. We'll explore the unique advantages that it offers. Next, we will be looking into the key features, diving into the main components of AWS Control Tower, and further we'll look how it works, a brief overview of the workflow, and we'll also look at some of the benefits and use cases to understand the practical application and the value to it. Finally, we'll have a Q&A session, so let's dive in. First, we have the introduction. Sanket, next slide. Yeah. So before we dive into AWS Control Tower, let's first understand why it is so important to have strong governance in a multi-account AWS environment. So organizations actually face many challenges when they have multi-account structure. For some of them, we've stated it below. Like manual configuration is when you're manually setting up each account, and it's very time consuming. You are prone to human error, and consistency is the major real problem, especially when your environment is in a growing stage. Next, you have like security and compliance concerns. Ensuring every account adheres to the security policies and compliance standards can feel overwhelming at times without having a centralized system. So this can leave gaps into your environment, which which will have you many challenges that you will be facing in your further. So lack of centralized governance is also a major problem that can be faced without having a central way to manage the policies and setting across the accounts. So this will have a major problem when you don't have a centralized structure within all the accounts. You will face challenges because you need to manage all the accounts on a separate level. And governance actually turns into a very solid activity, something that increases the amount of risks and complications into your operations. Also, you might face scalability issues as the organization would grow. Managing individual accounts becomes an administrative burden. Businesses might need a well scalable solution to keep the pace and growth within their environment. So mitigating all these problems that a multi-account organization might face, Control Tower comes into picture. which is a very reliable and scalable solution that AWS offers. So Control Tower is the answer to these challenges. It offers an automated, centralized, and a secure way to manage all your multi-account AWS environments. It also combines the governance and scalability with the ease of use. It is very easy to use. The console is very handy and easy to learn, enabling you to focus on your business instead of worrying about your infrastructure and the overhead that it holds. So it is actually built on the capabilities of AWS organizations to help you manage multi accounts effectively. One key feature that AWS Control Tower is ability to prevent is the drift, wherein you fall under a situation where your accounts move away from the established best practices. Because if you don't have all your accounts under your under one specific organization, obviously all the accounts will drift away, which will make the situation more challengeable for you. So it does this by applying controls, also known as guardrails. For example, these controls ensure, like, they actually ensure all the critical security logs and cross account permissions that are created and those also stay unchanged. So when you're managing many accounts, having a tool like AWS Control Tower makes all these deployments and governance much easier. It actually, you can say, it simplifies the account creation and also ensures to corporate all the policies, meet all your regulatory standards, and adopt the AWS best practices that every account should be adopting. This orchestration actually is particularly very helpful for a scaling organization to have it securely and efficiently created. So these were some of the reasons why multi-account organizations should opt for Control Tower, and how beneficial actually Control Tower would be for a multi-account organization. Next slide, we will be understanding why Control Tower should be chosen. So as I previously said, it gives us an accelerated deployment with the predefined templates. It allows you to quickly deploy new accounts and environments. What might take days manually, if you have your IT person doing this manually, it might actually take days to implement all the accounts. But with Control Tower, you'll have it in some clicks. Also, it offers consistent security and compliance using a built-in guardrails. AWS Control Tower actually ensures all your accounts follow the best security practices that AWS offers, with the compliance standards compliant automatically to your account. Next, it also offers a very simplified account management system. Instead of like you managing each account individually, Control Tower completely offers and provides a single pane of glass to oversee all your accounts, the policies attached to it, the resources that are running under those accounts. So you can have it all viewed under one dashboard if you have the Control Tower set up for all your accounts. Next, it also gives the scalability and flexibility to your organization structure. Whether you're starting small or managing a big enterprise, the Control Tower architecture is actually designed to scale. So adding more accounts and regions is very seamless, and it does not compromise on the governance and the security models that it offers. It will be same for all the accounts. So you would not be compromising on any beneficial factor that it offers. Also, the operational efficiency factor that Control Tower offers is because it has automation in place. So you can have the account creation done in an automated way. Policy enforcement and monitoring means fewer manual tasks and more time for your innovation, rather uh, juggling over the overhead and operational overhead. So with Control Tower, you can actually establish governance at a high scale without the complexity of managing multiple accounts. It's a game changer for the businesses aiming for a well-governed, scalable AWS environment with multiple accounts at their end. Next, we will actually look at how AWS Control Tower works. So what are the backend mechanisms and how it exactly coordinates with all the services? What are the services that it uses to give you a ready solution? So at the heart of AWS Control Tower, there are few components. First comes the landing zone. So basically, what is a landing zone? A landing zone is a well-architected multi-account environment. So this is based on the security and compliance best practices that each AWS account should be following. It is the enterprise wider container that holds all of your organization units that you have, the units that you have under your organization, the accounts, users, and all the other resources as well that you want to be subject to compliance regulations. So all the accounts that are compliant, that should be complied and into the regulatory form, all of those come into the landing zone. So landing zone can be scaled to fit the needs of an enterprise of any size. It can be scaled up to whatever limit of your enterprise is. So there is no issue with the scalability as well over here. So this is the foundation of the multi-account environment, and the structure of a landing zone also involves many subcomponents, such as there's a root, obviously, the parent that contains all the organization units in your landing zone, the security OU. This specific organization unit actually contains the log archive and the audit accounts. So basically, all your logs, audit logs, archival logs are stored in this specific organization unit, and it is by defaultly created once you have landing zone into picture. So these accounts often are referred to as the shared accounts. When you launch your landing zone, you can actually choose customized names if you want for these shared accounts, and you have an option to bring in existing AWS accounts into your AWS Control Tower as well for the security and logging purposes. However, these cannot be renamed later. So, and the existing accounts cannot be added for security logging for initial launch. But however, whatever setup you have, you should predefine it before and then have it launched into this setup. Next, you have the sandbox OU. So the sandbox OU is created when you actually launch your landing zone. If you enable it, if you have a tick on your dashboard, if you want the sandbox OU, you can enable it. And this and the other registered OUs contain the enrolled accounts that your users work with to perform their AWS workloads. So you have a sandbox OU separately, and then you have your AWS accounts as well into that specific organization. Next, you have the IAM Identity Center directory. This is a very main service. If you have multiple users working around your organization, you have many users and they have many permissions, it is very difficult to manage it manually. So this specific service, that is IAM Identity Center directory, will help you manage all these IAM users and the permissions that are given to them to access each and every account that falls under that specific organization. Next, we have the guardrails. So a guardrail specifically is a high-level rule that provides ongoing governance for your overall AWS environment. It's expressed in a plain language, and there are basically three kinds of controls that exist in guardrails. There is a preventive, there's a detective, and there's a proactive guardrail that you can apply to your control, the organization units. So these categories of guidance apply to the controls. They are mandatory, strongly recommended, and are elective as well. These are automated policies that, and they help you ensure the security and compliance. So the preventive guardrails here, these restrict certain actions, ensuring the compliance that should be followed within the accounts. And detective guardrails are those which monitor the accounts for non-compliant activities and alert the administrators in case there are any non-compliant activities going on. Next, you have the account factory. This actually automates the creation of accounts and based on the predefined templates that you have, ensuring consistency and adherence to the policy. So in Account Factory, what you can do is you can have a template, and once you have an organization set, you have around 5 organization units into it. So why to have it created each and every time? If you have a defined template, you can have it automatically created according to your template that you've defined into the Account Factory. Also, Control Tower offers a federated single sign-on. So this actually simplifies user access across all the accounts, allowing a secured and centralized identity management. So when you finally set up the landing zone, AWS Control Tower actually performs a few actions in your management account on your behalf. So it will automatically perform these actions. This will have no issue, like the management will not have to manually do it every time. Control Tower will do it at its own level. So it actually creates two organization units, the security and the sandbox one, contained with the organization root structure. It also creates or adds two shared accounts into the security organization unit, the log archive account and the audit account. It later creates the cloud native directory in an IAM identity center with the pre-configured groups and a single sign-on access. If you choose to default the default Control Tower configuration, or it also lets you self-manage your identity provider. So it will basically have a base template created for you. Next, further you can customize it in your own way as the your specific need. It also mandate all the mandatory detective controls to detect all the configuration violations. It also has the preventive controls. Not they are the preventive controls are not basically applied to the management account, but all the secondary accounts that are there in your organization. Except to the management account, controls are applied to the organization as a whole. And the workflow actually begins firstly, as I said, the workflow in few lines we can say that the workflow begins with the landing zone setup. Next you have the Account Factory provisions accounts, while guardrails are automatically applied to all the accounts. Finally, the administrators use the dashboard to manage and monitor the accounts with ease. So this is how the complete setup is done when you have Control Tower and landing zone in picture for your multi-account environment. So this was a brief overview of how you can leverage AWS Control Tower for your multi-account setup. Moving forward, for the landing zone and in the in-depth about landing zone, I would request Sanket to give a brief about the landing zone setup. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rutuja. Hey, hi all. Good morning. First of all, thank you for joining this webinar. I know it's weekend, lazy weekend kind of thing, but thank you for joining. So, as Rutuja explained you about the control tower, we'll just deep dive into the landing zone part. Exactly what is the terminology, the landing zone, and what is the control tower? Means just to simplify the term, landing zone is your base setup where you have your infrastructure kind of a base setup done. You need to have your base strong, considering from a security point of view, the performance as well as from an infrastructure point of view. Okay, I will just change the slide. Yeah. So as a business is increasing day by day, right? The cloud computing is also getting innovated uh, through various innovations, the agility and whatever the challenges or whatever we are facing on the on-prem systems, right? So how do you ensure that your cloud infrastructure is a scalable, secure, and aligned with your whatever your business requirements or the organization goals are there, right? So this is where this landing zone came into the picture. So how it works, so we'll just have a short understanding first of all. So from a starting point of view, which any organizations can deploy their workloads and application, right? But how they can have the robust security and the governance in picture? How do they maintain this robust security and governance in picture? So a well, you can say a well architected landing zone which will simplify this operational as well as ensure that your business will be growing. Whatever you are deploying, the application, the websites, considering from a cloud environment, grow whatever as you are expected. Okay. So just to have the definition in picture, an AWS landing zone is a well-architected multi-account environment design with a scalable and security at its core. Now, it's not just about the creating, configuring the security services or security infrastructure. It's also about the establishing your secure and governance ecosystem, right? As this foundation also allows you for the organization to quickly launch and deploy your application without worrying about whether your infrastructure can be supported safely and reliably. As Rutuja also explained you about the control tower setup, right? So whatever the SAPs are there, the guardrails are there. So it can be predefined as a starting phase only, or as a baseline only. So further, whenever you are creating any account or any you're deploying any applications, whether it is a monolithic or microservices, you don't need to worry about the base part, right? Because everything is in line at your start only. Whether it is IAM policy, whether it is IAM identity center. So it can be aligned at the starting phase only. So just to go on a beyond technical configurations, they can be aligned with your business need to provide the agility and the security infra for the dynamic market as it's growing day by day, right? So to build an effective landing zone, consider this technical and business decision we need to take, right? So now the decisions can be based on various span across, right? So first of all, account structure, I would say. So defining how to structure your AWS accounts, that whatever your workloads are, that needs to be properly isolated and that needs to be compliant within your organization's policies, right? So first of all, the account structure needs to be defined. Second is the networking part, I would say, because defining or designing a robust network architecture that will completely support your scalability, and also it will ensure that you are having a secure communication, right? So whatever your data is going in and out, or whatever the internal data is having the communication between the services, that needs to be a properly aligned with a secure way, as well as whoever is taking access to your server or whatever your data is going on, that is also within your uh, compliant region only. So that we need to align it. Third is the security part, implementing the guardrails, including the encryption part, IAM identity access management, and the compliance policies that you need to be assigned for that particular user. Fourth is the access management we can consider, ensuring that users have the right access to the right resources without compromising the security, right? So whatever the access, we need to define it properly. So all these four elements I just mentioned, key account structure, networking, security, and access management, that needs to be properly tailored, I would say, to your organization, and it will help you for the growth, and also it will align with its long-term business goals, I would say. So what are the benefits, I would say? So benefits of having landing zone, you will be having end-to-end kind of a security baseline structure at the starting phase only. You don't need to hustle, and later on, slowly as your account increases, or the number of accounts increases, or the workload increases, so this can be in a starting phase only that you are in line with it. So just to have just for the investment of the future, we can consider this as a landing zone, because by starting with a strong foundation, you are not just building for the today, but also ensuring that your cloud environment can meet the demands of tomorrow, right? Because it is very much easy to invest in multiple services, but at the starting phase, if you are having that base strong enough, then you are further, whatever the hustle you need to do on this, or whatever you wanted to play in a cloud environment, that becomes very much easy on this part. So creating the landing zone, or any having related to that structure, the control tower is a service where you use it to build this landing zone, and it is a very much simple service that you need to have it. You just need to have your OUs defined, how many OUs you wanted to have in picture, what are the SAPs, what are the guardrails, or what are the necessary things. You just need to capture it, and you can just have that use case created, and you can have your multi-account kind of a structure created. Okay. Moving forward, now we'll just understand the purpose of the landing zone. Exactly what does landing zone, purpose of the landing zone. So first of all, security is the heart of this landing zone. You just need to be uh, tight. Keep this in your mind. Key security is the heart of a landing zone. It not only incorporates the standard best practices, but also it ensures the AWS environment, which can be remains the account must be remain secure and compliant. So what are the features? So just to have that features in picture, identity access management, because you need to have the robust role-based access controls, right? The encryption part, protection of your data at rest, in transit, in picture. Networking security, guardrails needs to be ensured for your traffic flow, whatever needs to be securely. Fourth is the logging and monitoring part, enabling, because while creating the OUs, there are two audit and security accounts are by defaultly created for the separate auditing part. So enabling the full visibility into environment for the audit and troubleshooting. That is the one main thing. Now coming to the automations and the governance part, as Rutuja also explained, because this is a kind of automating way of your managing AWS accounts. So this can be considered as a automating your multiple. Let's say you wanted to have 100 plus accounts to be deployed in a single day, or you just need to have it in the picture. So where this automation can be worked using the landing zone setup, which will also help your organization grow without any hassle or without any manual errors, I would say. Because as humans come into the picture, definitely one, let's say if he forgets to attach any particular policy, or if he gives wrong policy to some certain person, it will be create hustle at a organization level, right? So just to have that automation and the governance in picture at the starting phase would definitely help your organization grow. And fourth, you can consider as a cost optimization. Why cost optimization? Because see, by following the AWS best practices, definitely you would have everything, the well architected pillars in the picture, right? The well architected pillars are the security, performance, reliability, cost, sustainability in picture. So just to have your maximum ROI in picture, landing zone can definitely help any multiple enterprises customers, or any kind of a financial sector customers, where there are very much compliance and governance point of view, where they can leverage this landing zone. And also in terms of the mapping of the budgeting part or any, because there is a defined budget at the IT organization, right? So just to have that budget defined in a proper structure, we can have this landing zone in picture, and we can have manage the multi-account billing kind of thing in a single OU itself only. Because based on the tagging, based on this allocation reports, the cost allocation reports, or any budgeting part, we can have that stored in a particular single cost explorer thing, where we can explore multiple features of a cost explorer. So that is the one thing. Now let's understand about the benefits of landing zone. The control tower and the landing zone benefits would be the same similarity only. Just to have the landing zone, definitely the scalability is one of the factor in the landing zone. Why it's helps you to scale in uh, having the multiple accounts in the picture, ability to your infrastructure, ability to your growing your business also. Second is the security. Obviously there are having a multiple SCPs are there, the secure control policies are there, where there are predefined kind of a policies applied to your AWS account at the starting phase only. For example, let's say you wanted to apply a policy for the S3 bucket, right? Whatever you're putting any objects into the S3 bucket, and the bucket do not needs to be publicly accessible. So as a, when you are creating one bucket, that by defaultly when you are creating in a public, it will just alert you in the give you the alert you that you cannot create a bucket in a public facing kind of thing. So that is the one compliance point of view where for the service level you can apply. Now this was just an example for the S3. You can apply multiple kind of a guardrails at your EC2, and as well as for the any multiple services, right? And third is the compliance point of view, where definitely multiple organizations are having multiple kind of a compliance. Let's say from a financial sector, they are very much concerned about the security and whatever the data they are residing, that needs to be in a multiple, does not need to be in a kind of a multiple region. There needs to be data residing to be in an Indian region only. Let's say consider any bank as a customer, right? Their data needs to be only residing in an Indian zone only. So from that compliance point of view, you can also ensure that whatever your resources are launching, that needs to be only launched in a Mumbai region or a Hyderabad region, considering from a compliance point of view. So where you can have another kind of a region disabled from a single OU, and other whatever the services are there, that will not launch in a different region. Also, it will ensure about the costing part. Let's say if any kind of a malicious activity is performed and someone get tried to access your account, he must be launching any other service in a different region. So also from a compliance point of view, we can have that cost also save, means whatever this malicious activity are going. So this can be also one secured way you can have in the picture, right? Now coming to the automations part, now streamlining your AWS setup and whatever the resources, definitely it would have a automating part in the picture, because while creating one account, you need to have created uh, whatever the details are there, you need to give your email IDs and that stuff are there, right? So while creating the landing zone, only at the one time you need to have this part in the picture, where you will have this multiple account setup done in a proper way at a starting phase only, and where this can be done as a uh, recurring part. If to create an account, you just need to have 2 to 3 clicks and your account has been created. And last is the consistency. Definitely consistency will ensure your, means whatever your multiple AWS accounts are there, it will help you in a long term kind of say, ki whatever you're deploying or whatever you're creating in the AWS account, that is a properly secured in every way, and this can be ensured for the business growth as well as, right? And now let's understand about the key components of the landing zone. Control tower, as I mentioned, key control tower is a tool for creating this landing zone. So that is one part. So it is a kind of a centralized governance and a management for your AWS infra. So control tower is a service in AWS, right? And second is the organization. Now organization was the first terminology in AWS where you can have your multiple account setup done. So later on, AWS observed ki, okay, the organization is like kind of a having only single structure kind of say, right? Matlab, only we need to create multiple accounts, but that is not having any particular hierarchy or particular sector kind of a hierarchy where we need to have everything. We just need to club in one organization. We can have multiple accounts. But what control tower has helped us in that, it it has helped us in creating a different OUs, different organization with a different use cases or different kind of a sector wise or different environment wise or different project wise, you can say. So where control tower is giving that flexibility to us, you can have your multi account structure in a centralized way, but with a very much clarity on every terms, whether it is a cost, whether it is a security, or your whatever the resources you wanted to launch in that stuff, right? Third is the identity access management. Whatever you need to have your access over to the AWS resources. So whatever the granularity you need to be, that can be defined end to end in this control tower setup. Fourth is the service catalogs. Now service catalogs are the, you can consider as a SOPs, or you can consider them as a security documents that you can have them in picture, where you can have your resources managed and governed properly in a centralized way. So service catalog is one of the good service you can leverage. And config is a, you can consider for the monitoring parts. Let's say you wanted to track your activity, how many resources are there in my particular regions, how many EC2 instances are there. So where config can help you in monitoring in those terms, where it will record your whatever you're launching your AWS resources in whichever region, you just need to enable that recorder, and from the next 1 hour it will start your recording whatever the services are getting launched in this. So these were the key components of the landing zones. Now, it's a just overview. Whatever just Rutuja explained about the how it works out the control tower. It's just the same. It's just a overview of how that landing zone structure is there. As you can see here, the management account is main account, where is a root account is there, and through which through control tower where we can use that service to set up this landing zone. So first of all, whenever you are creating a control tower, an OU is created. As you can see, the AWS organization. Now these OUs are created through the CloudFormation templates only. Backend they are using the CloudFormation stacks only. We just are giving a few inputs to this control tower services, and it's getting backend. The CloudFormation template is getting executed at the backend. Okay, so this is the OU, the root OU you can say, and under which, as I mentioned you, there will be a security OU and the sandbox OU where audit accounts and logging accounts are created by defaultly. And one is the sandbox OU. It's a kind of a, you can consider as a testing OU where you can provision your multiple child accounts in that picture. So where you can see now security OUs are having the log archive account and the audit account in the picture where centralized kind of a logging and auditing is going on. And the sandbox OU where you can have your multiple child accounts created in the picture. So let's say if you wanted to have for one of the project, let's say project number one would have one OU, the sandbox OU, in which multiple accounts are there. Let's say you wanted to have UAT, dev infra as a separate account wise, production to be in a separate account. So where you can create this child accounts in that sandbox OU and you can have in the picture. Okay, and for the identity access management and for the this we can use this identity center. Whether you are also having any kind of a existing directory or any kind of a particular from any different directory, we can definitely integrate with the IAM services where you can have same directory use from whatever you have purchased from it. So where we can have that same in structure, only just we need to do some configurations part. We can just enable it and you can go with your same directory service also. Now let's understand the implementation process of for the landing zone. So for the implementing parts, it's just a few clicks where you can have it. Only just you need to have that process defined at the starting level only, because the assessment and planning is one of the key process I would say, where you will evaluate your organization's goals and the requirements from your business stakeholders, key exactly what they are trying to define and what are their main concerns. Is it only the security or is it only the performance? You just need to define it properly and have that goals and objectives set, and then you can implement the landing zone setup, right? Now, coming to the design and architecture, whenever your goals and objectives are defined end to end with your stakeholders, everything is approved. Now you need to design your architecture. Let's say you need to have the 10 OUs in picture, 5 accounts in one OU, and so on. What are the security policies? How you need to define the structure of your account? What will be the networking? How it will be the data in and out flowing? How many VPN setups or any on-prem connectivity is there if we need to have that. So that is the design and architecture part. Now preparations, now design, architecture and planning has been done. Now third comes on preparations, right? So just to meet this preparations part, you just need to have the this first two activities get done properly, and then whatever related to IAM policies and network, that you need to is doing the setup in the control tower service, using control tower service. And fourth is the deployment, where you will be using control tower service to deploy your landing zone setup. And according to, you can have the whatever the architecture you have defined, considering your business outputs, you can have that setup done. So coming to the SCPs, the service control policies, or any enforcement of your compliance and security requirements, you can have at the starting phase only. And last is a testing and validation. Definitely, whatever the setup you have done at your end, so you just need to test it once by giving to the external users or any organization. If you are leveraging any AWS partner like we Cloud.in are the partner of the AWS, right? So we do help multiple clients in setting the landing zone. So considering as we have also achieved a control tower service delivery in this part, because we are having the expertise of the control tower. So if you require any help in that setup or any, you can just connect through us at the sales side direct cloud routing. So where you can have this landing zone setup or any you want info, we can get this done at our level also, right? So now these are the some benefits and use case we have considered, because what are the demo we can show, because it's a very much account to account, or you can say use case to use case service, so it would differ it. So we have not just arranged a kind of a demo, because it's just a setup of the accounts where you have to define some policies and define some rules at your account level. So it's just a very much self-explanatory or self-understanding part in that structure. Only the use cases part, I would say, now considering from a financial services, healthcare, and e-commerce. Now these are the major three sectors we have observed the landing zone can be implemented, because they are having a kind of a multi-account structure, and also they are kind of a now everyone are moving into the modernization part, right? So everyone is shifting from a monolithic to the microservices architecture, where they would require multiple accounts for the testing part, for the production part. So by incorporating the best practices of the landing zone, or you can say the control tower service, this can definitely enhance your performance as well as the security structure and compliance standard also. So whatever related to the centralized management, or whatever related to multi accounts, as our topic is also based on that, the mastering the multi accounts and governance. So definitely you can leverage this control tower service, where it will help you in a many multiple terms, whether it is a security cost, and you can handle your multiple AWS accounts in a centralized way only. And yeah, I think that's it for today. If you are having any questions, you can just put it in the chat, or you can raise your hands. We can just take it up.
Thank you, Sanket and Kutuja, for such an insightful presentation. The session is open for Q&A. If anyone is having any questions, you can raise the electronic hand and I will unmute you. Or you can type your questions in the question section. Okay, we will wait for a minute or two if there are any questions.
Sure, ma'am.
Sanket, there are no questions, so I guess we can conclude the session. We have pasted one feedback form link in the chat box, so we'd like to get your feedback on the session to improve the experience. So I will request you to share your feedback through the link shared in the chat box. And thank you again for joining the session. We appreciate your being with us today. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.